Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Hey y'all, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. I don't know about you all, but I'm starting to get in this rhythm and get in this groove, and super excited about the guests that I have coming on and just hearing their stories and bringing it to y'all because I feel like I'm learning and I hope that you all are learning too. Well, this guest is someone that I met in the DC area. Well, yeah. So I met this guest via social media-ish. We were a part of the same club, and I'm an announcer. And we were down, I think it was General Smallwood, which is coming up for me again this year. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, that's Josh. Hi, Josh. And when triathletes are about to go into a race, they are just focused, tunnel vision. So I said, he didn't see me the first time. I'm going to say hi to him when he finishes. Well, the finish comes, and I'm like, Josh, and he's like, and I said, he's playing me. But in all seriousness, he probably just didn't hear me. But this gentleman is such a level setter. He is one of the nicest people you will ever meet in this sport. He loves community, and he honors where he is at all times. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the way he encourages others. And let me let you know, he's my birthday twin. Yes, we are born on the same day. So you already know he is packing that energy. So just in case you want to know our birthday, it's July 19th. We accept Cash App, we accept Zelle, we accept all the love and the gifts. But without further ado, I get to bring to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast someone that you've heard on my lives before, Mr. Joshua Banks. Josh, welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, Mashonda, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. Excuse me. Hold on. Not you coming up on the screen with your own picture, your own background, trying to outshine me, Josh, but I love the energy. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, for everybody that didn't know, I was on a half an hour early to make sure that I was doing this professional because I got these emails with these questionnaires and vetting me as to whether I could be on the Mashonda
Oh,
Shines
stop it.
podcast, the Try Beginner's
Stop.
Luck podcast. And I have to let everybody know that I am still so embarrassed by what happened at General Smallwood. I will never live it down. And I'm just like, I crossed the finish line second, and I had no intention of ever even coming close to Greg, who was going to be first. We all knew that, when he showed up at the start line.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that I crossed second, I was just elated, and I had no idea what happened. So I am still so mortified by that. So
Oh,
thank you for bringing that up.
it's hilarious to me because I'm like, that's something I kind of sort of would have probably done. But, I just love it. And I loved how we've been able to just play about it. And I think that shows the humanity in sport and how, we can be so caught in a moment and people can easily get offended because it's that moment that somebody could have missed. And it's like, don't get offended. Don't get upset about the things that you can't circle back with somebody, circle back because I circled back with you. And I was like, what's up? What's up? But it was all good. And I just think that, it's just an opportunity to give grace and just have fun. Like this sport is so fun. But yes, that was a very good day. It was a good race. And you excel at pretty much a lot of the things that you do. And although I've only known you for a short time because you haven't been in DC that long, you come from North Carolina or moved from North Carolina to here. And so, but the time that I've gotten to know you, it's been like just really amazing. And so, yeah. And to find out that we're birthday twins.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, I feel the same. The feeling is mutual for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Let's talk about this background, this picture that's so beautiful. For those of you who are not viewing this on YouTube, you don't get a chance to see this beautiful picture unless you're following us on what is that thing called? Instagram. So if you follow us on Instagram, you'll probably see a little bit of it. But his background is sharp. It has the new uh, Frederick Douglass Bridge in the
yeah.
background. It's in Anacostia Park, a park that is so dear to me. And you looking sharp. Tell us about
Yeah.
this beautiful background picture.
Well, I'm lucky enough to know a guy named James Majewski, and he lives out in Arizona now. But when he was living here in DC, he just did some amazing photography around the area. And he was out on Anacostia Park taking pictures for some run clubs that he was a part of. And I happened to be flying by on my new Ventum, and so that Ventum is, and I'm sure we'll get into talking about this a little later. I built that with my daughter and my daughter's memory, and it was just, it was the inaugural or the first ride, I think, the maiden voyage, if you will, for the bike, and it was just a special moment to capture. And James sent me the picture, and it was just, I really love putting that as my background now. So
It's a beautiful, beautiful background. And just if you are familiar with DC, you have the Anacostia River in the back. It's just so many focal points of DC, and yet at the same time, a very special moment in time. And it was captured. And, that's what I love about those who are photographers and who capture moments. They're capturing memories that we think are just normal. And we're like, this is just what I'm doing. But when it's captured and you get to look back at it and reflect on the meaning, it really brings about a different moment, and it allows you to take yourself back to that place and where you were. And if you're having a bad day, it allows you to look at that and think about, yeah, I remember that day, that moment, that
yeah.
time. So, oh, Josh, there's so many different intersections of your story that I want to get into. And I think the one that I want to start with is the one that you just brought up about getting into. When I'm preparing for my for episodes, I'm always like, well, what is it about this person that stands out that I can always highlight? And I usually do it in the introduction, but for whatever reason, I feel like it's most appropriate. Like now, you are to me like the bounce back king. And so there's this song for those of you who know who Big Sean is. Now, listen, the song has some explicit words in it, and it has some things about it that just might not feel like good, but it talks about bouncing back. And one of the lyrics that he says is, if you a real one, then you know how to bounce back. And if you know the song, and bounce back. So it has like this little beat to it. And so when I heard that, I was like, yes, he is the bounce back king. And I feel like you know resiliency like nobody else. So tell us about this resilient bounce back ability that you have, which resonated with one of the picture that you talked about that I would like for you to share your story.
Yeah, so I don't know as I have any special tools. I think it's just I think that triathlon really has helped me with that bounce back, right? So the story behind that is in 2022, my wife and I got news that we were going to have our first child, and we were really excited about having our first child. But when we got the prenatal testing results, we found out we were having a little baby girl, and we were super excited about that. But then we saw this little percentage mark next to stuff that we had never heard, which was trisomy 13, which a lot of people haven't really heard about. A lot of people know Down syndrome, which is trisomy 21, but they haven't heard of the lesser known ones because they're a little more rare. Trisomy 13, which is Pay-Tau syndrome, and trisomy 18, which is Edwards syndrome. And it's actually appropriate that we're talking about this as we leave March because March is Trisomy Awareness Month. And what trisomy is three chromosomes of whatever that third number is. So for our daughter, she had three chromosomes of chromosome 13. And so the big thing with 13 and 18, not to make this a genetics lesson on a triathlon podcast, but is that they carry more information. So she had a lot of complications. She had some heart complications, some brain complications, kidneys. She had a two vessel cord, which caused some growth restriction, interuterine growth restriction. And but she was a fighter. She was never like the percentage chance that she was going to get born was very, very small. And there's a lot of people that won't even continue to carry these children. But with my wife and I, we got on the same page and we decided we were going to give our daughter a chance. And I remember finding out about the official diagnosis the week of um, kinetic triathlon, actually, the 2022 kinetic triathlon, which I think you were there, Mashonda, but I don't think we knew each other back at that point. Um, and it was cold, it was windy, it was a really tough day. And we found out that week and we said, hey, we're going to still go down. We had the Airbnb. We can't cancel it. At worst, it'll just be a time to get away. We may not race. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to see how I felt. And I woke up that morning and I kind of thought, hey, if my daughter is in there still fighting to meet us and be with us, I'm going to race for her. And that was prior to General Smallwood was actually my best result. I came in fourth overall on a really tough day. And it was just a matter of thinking, hey, there's other people. My daughter's out there fighting. There's other people that are going through a lot. I can push through this and I can use this to bounce back, as you said. And so I used triathlon as a way to initially help myself heal, and then that kind of morphed into using it to hopefully help other people see that no matter what you're going through, if you have your why and you have your drive and you channel that into the right things, that can really help you be resilient.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate your resilience, but even more so, just want to just express my condolences to you and your wife. And I think what you said is knowing your why and your purpose. Is that what you said? Why and purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Then it allows you to bounce back. And I believe 100% that is very true. Even when the outcome isn't what you want it to be, it's like knowing your purpose and knowing your why, it allows you the ability to bounce back and to be resilient. And so um, I appreciate your the way you show up. I was there that day, and I can't remember if I was actually racing it or if I was announcing that day. I don't recall which. No, 2021, I think I raced it. 2022, I think I announced it maybe. And I just remembered a hat. You wore like a particular hat. Was it a hat then? Like a black hat with I'm seeing a black hat with a black hat, white front with stripes, like a trucker situation.
So I think you're talking about this one that I have on now.
Okay,
This
that that
that
that, that
that
looks
came
familiar.
out that came out after my
Okay,
wife and I had our daughter.
okay,
This race I did have a black trucker hat on, but it
okay.
was the most uncomfortable Walmart trucker hat that just said faith life on it. And the reason for faith life was we when we found out about my daughter's diagnosis, we had other names picked out and we were super ready to just go with those names. And then we found out about the diagnosis. And my wife's aunt, who she never met, she died young, had Down syndrome and died from complications. And her name was Faye, or sorry, her name was Zena, and my wife's middle name was Faye, which is faith in Spanish, and so we named her Faith Zena. But the Faith Life hat was just what I could get my hands on. As soon as we found out about that, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to wear this Faith Life hat for the rest of my races for that year." And so that's what I did. It was the most uncomfortable thing. And so after that, I was like, I think I could probably design one better. And so now we've got two different hats out right now that we sell totally. All of the proceeds go to what we an organization that we support called Support Organization for Trisomy, which is focuses on trisomy 13 and 18, and we actually sit as board of advisors for that now as well. So now you see me either wearing this one with the white, and that's probably why you think about that one, because it just associates now, or I have another one that has black and it has some patterns on it as well, which all represent trisomy 13, and they all represent a different child or family that has been affected. So
Okay, I knew it was something. I was like, I remember a hat. I remember like I remember the weirdest thing about people who come across the finish line. I need to I don't anyway, it's weird, but I just remembered a black hat and I guess that explains it. Well, you talk about, your journey and bouncing back and using that to catapult your tri journey. But how did your tri journey even start? Like, what made you say, hey, I want to be a triathlete? Like, you know, let's get all into that.
oh man, I used to think I was never going to be in triathlon. Uh, yeah, I'm actually famously quoted multiple times, not really famously, but uh, as saying like I shouldn't need to run more than 40 yards because I played football and I was a swimmer in high school and I got away from football, but I was like, running like maybe a mile, but like that's really all I should need to run. Anything more than that is just overkill. And um, I kind of got away from college, got away from sports in college, focused on academics. Then I got into the workforce and kind of just let my fitness slip a little bit. And I went, hey, how can I get back into fitness? And I got into Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu for a little while, which again I don't need a ton of running for. Cardio is important, but it's a different type of cardio. And I just kind of got away from those, and I was searching for something else. And my parents were doing triathlon at the time. They were doing sprints, which are awesome. In fact, I'm mostly focused on short course this year, and they were injured at the time. So they usually did this race in Smithfield, North Carolina, called the Three Little Pigs, which was a great race, great sprint race in Smithfield, North Carolina. If you ever get the chance, highly recommend it. And they were doing that every year and went, hey, you should come do it with us. I was like, oh, no, no, no. But we are going to be leaving North Carolina soon. And so I was like, well, let's try it. And they go, we can't, we're injured. My mom had plantar fasciitis. My dad had a shoulder injury. I was like, well, this isn't a great endorsement of triathlon to begin with, but let's just try this thing out. And they went, well, we could do a relay. And I went, that sounds fun, but I kind of want to do the whole thing. So my wife volunteered to be the runner. My dad could still bike with his shoulder, and my mom could swim with her plantar fasciitis. So they did the relay, and I did the sprint. And I said, hey, let's make it a little fun race. And that's what we did. And next thing I knew, I was hooked on the training because I didn't have to run all the time. I didn't have to swim all the time. I didn't have to bike all the time. And it just kept things interesting. And I was really enjoying doing it. And so from that point on, I did a couple more super sprints there in North Carolina. And then went, okay, in 2 years, I want to do an Ironman. I think I could do it. And so I put Ironman Maryland on the calendar, and that was in 2019. And I went, I'm going to do a 70.3 in 2020, and then I'll do my first Ironman in 2021. And then COVID. And so I went, well, let's just keep training. So, I mean, immediately into triathlon, I was already faced with that like adversity. Hey, are you going to stick with this sport or are you going to kind of move on to something else? And I just went, well, I can either look at this as like, man, all the races are canceled. I'm really disappointed. Or I can look at this as an opportunity to train for the next year and get much better than I used to be and then come back even stronger. So I didn't put any of the goals on hold. I just rolled the races into the next year.
I love that how you just was like, I'm not going to put them on hold. I just roll them over, and you didn't lose motivation. Like a lot of people during the pandemic lost their motivation because it was so easy to lose motivation during the pandemic. But I love that, triathlon kept you moving forward because you had this goal that you wanted to um, obtain. And so there it is. And your parents, okay, let's talk the parental unit for a moment. Now, were your parents, did they get into this as like their late in life uh hobbies? How did that happen?
They did. So they were at a gym in their complex, basically had its own gym, Flowers Plantation down in Clayton, and they had a little Flowers Plantation tri team that somebody started there in the athletic club, and they were like, let's try this out. It'll give us something to do to stay in shape, and they caught the bug too. And I think everybody just catches the bug for different reasons. They wanted to do something to get them out of the house and keep healthy, and so that's what they were doing, and it was working great for them. Excuse me, it was working great for them, and they just really enjoyed it and wanted to share it with me.
Okay, parent unit, we're here for that. We're here for you getting your start and getting your son involved. I think that's just such a beautiful thing. A lot of times people think you have to start the sport very young, and what most of the time people don't realize is that a lot of people get their start late in life or after they've um, graduated or in their 40s. It's a big, when I turn 40, I want to do this, or 50. So it's like that 40 or 50 mark, midlife, the midlife crisis era. But I love that, they're in it, but yet younger people are now starting to come into it. Hence yourself getting involved and going the distance. I also appreciate how you said that this year, and then we'll go back to the journey, you're focusing on sprints. Or you didn't say that exactly. You said short course. In my
Yeah.
mind, I identified it as a sprint, but that can be anything. It could be Olympic, it could be super sprint, it can be anything. What's making you focus on sprints this year?
So last year I got the opportunity to do a draft legal event, and it was an Olympic distance draft legal. And I just fell in love with that distance. I just really, really fell in love with the draft legal aspect of it, the competition of it, and so I wanted to focus on that. And so last year I got that opportunity, which was a bonus. So last year's goals, if you will, I wanted to qualify for Boston Marathon. I wanted to qualify for 70.3 Worlds, and I wanted to qualify for Kona. Um, I knew I wasn't going to take the 70.3 World slot because it was happening like 2 weeks before or after Ironman Maryland, which is where I was going to try and compete for Kona. Um, and I made two out of the three of those. But within that, I also got this draft legal opportunity. And that draft legal opportunity just opened my eyes to how much more fun it is to do that for me specifically, to do that type of distance. And so I knew that I couldn't keep doing this 1 foot in long distance and 1 foot in short course. There's some people that can do that. For me personally, if I want to be where I want to be in the Olympic distance level, then I needed to step my game up. And so I needed to focus only on that. So I love telling people, like, you'll get the comment all the time. I'm sure you hear that, oh, I'm just doing a sprint. And I'm like, hey, you're not just doing a sprint, you're doing a sprint. And it's so different. So for me, it does mean a short course to me means Olympic. My focus this year is going to be on Atlantic City for both distances. And then I'm also looking forward to trying a little bit more. Actually, I lead off my first triathlon this year is a super sprint down in Virginia. The under 23 developmental race opened up to all ages, and it's going to be down in Richmond, Virginia. So I'm going down there, and I'm going to see how I can compete with these young kids that are all going to kick my butt. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm here for that. So when you say Olympic for both in Atlantic City, does that mean you're also going to try to do USAT age group nationals or as well in addition to the Olympic, that's the draft legal Olympic?
So they don't have a draft legal in Atlantic City. So if I wanted to do nationals, I'd have to go out to Omaha for the
Mm,
multi-sport. That's where they do all their draft legal stuff. I'm not committed to that just yet. There's a lot
okay.
going on in June for us.
Okay.
But I am doing both the Olympic distance and the sprint distance up at USAT Age Group Nationals.
That's when you said you're doing both. Okay, I was trying to figure out, I was like, I don't think that there's a Olympic draft legal, but maybe it's a
Mm-mm.
different race because there are some other races in Atlantic City that have nothing to do with USAT age group nationals. And so I wasn't sure, and that's why I was asking that question. Okay. So let's
Yeah,
put
thanks for the clear. I should have been more specific on that. Thanks for the clarification.
it's okay. That's my job to help make sure that I have understanding so that those that are listening have the understanding. Let's go back to the first triathlon ever down at in North Carolina at Smithfield. Smithfield was your
Yeah,
first race, right? Okay, just making sure
yep,
my memory was in check. So
you got it.
Smithfield is your first race. Tell us all about it. What was it like training for it? Let's talk about the training. So what was it like training?
So you're gonna laugh at this since you know me, but I went. Oh, I'm just gonna do this just once, and so I'm just gonna get a cheap triathlon bike. I'm not gonna get a road bike. I'm never gonna do road racing. I'm never gonna do any of that stuff. I'm just gonna get a triathlon bike, and then I got a little indoor trainer because I was like, "Oh, I'll just get up early in the morning before work and I'll train indoors." And so I got this little Quintana Roo Kilo. I'll never forget it. It's slightly too small for me. It was bright yellow, super cool bike. Uh, I've since sold it. I can't have that many bikes anymore. And so, but I was training on that thing. I had not ridden a bike like that, like a road bike, probably ever in my life. I rode like mountain bike, like the kids' bikes, when I was a teenager in high school. I'd ride my bike around the neighborhood, stuff like that. But I had never ridden that. So I had to, first time I got out on the road, it was really unstable. And so I had to figure out how to ride a bike again, essentially. So I stayed on the trainer for so long and then rode this bike out on the road and went, whoa, this is different. I got to figure this out. So then I decided I've got to get out on the road. I was like, I can run already. I've run before, so this will be all right. And I was a swimmer in high school. I was like, I can swim, but the biking was what I was worried about. And so I got out and I just started biking and biking, biking, and I threw some runs in. I wasn't really following any strict training plan for the first one. I was just kind of like, I'll just get out and ride my bike. I'll get out and run, and I'll get out and swim when I can. Um, but I just was doing it because I enjoyed the challenge. And then once I raced, I went, this was really fun. I got to do it again. And so that's when I got into the next one. But that race is super cool. It's like a 400-meter swim, and you just go back and forth in the pool. So it's a pool swim. You snake back and forth, and it's so much fun. Then you run out, and I was just in awe of how all of these people on these bikes were just passing by me. I was like, you were way behind me in the pool and now you're just flying by me. What is going on here? And so then if they didn't pass me on the bike, then they were passing me on the run. And I was like, holy cow, I got to get better at this thing. And so that's what I did. I went, we're just going to go try and get better at this.
And now you're zooming past everybody, period.
Uh, I
Yeah.
still look at myself as a rabbit. I get out in the swim for a lot of it, and then the bike, and I try and hold them off in the run. So, because there are some fast people out there on the run still.
Absolutely. But you, yes, absolutely. I'm just going to leave it there. Um, and back to your cycling point about you're not doing road races or anything. Let me tell you about Josh. So I do this Criterion uh, training ride. I am the official bell ringer with so much pride. But I did that so that I could learn about criterium racing because I was doing some criterium announcing. And one, criterium racing is exhilarating to watch. I love the sound of the bikes. I heard it's called ASMR. So I have that gene where I love the sound that comes from the bikes. But one day I was out there and I said, Josh. And y'all, let me tell you, Josh was the talk of the day because the officials were like, that's why we don't like. So there's this little tension between triathletes and cyclists because triathletes know how to sustain and hold power. And he came out there and he sandbagged essentially. I think it was like almost sandbagged, but I think you kind of lost it at the very last bit. But they were just like, who is this guy coming out here? So that's just to let you know Joshua's capability on the bike. And I
Yeah.
can only
So
imagine he's gotten stronger since last year.
so I was not sandbagging. I don't agree with that in the slightest. And the reason I don't agree with that is because I think if you were to just go out there and say, hey, cyclists just need to hold a specific amount of power, sure, on a TT, that would probably be true on a time trial. But in criterium racing, there is so much in tactics that goes into it and so much more that goes into that racing that's what I was at the practice race, the green belt one that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was there for, is to learn how to race in a pack and learn those tactics. And it it wouldn't have been fair to me to put me in with these other people that were going so fast and knew all these different tactics. And it honestly probably wouldn't have been safe because I wasn't comfortable racing in a pack yet. So that is why I was in the novice. I did
And
do
that's why he
one.
just led the whole time. Mm-hmm.
I was in front and I lost it, and I was like 15th by the end of the race. Because one of the tactics is not to just sit in the front and pull everybody.
Yep.
So no, but that was a lot of fun, and that was why I was. You would know that I now have a crit bike and I have a road racing bike, and that's why I thought you'd get a kick out of me going, I just need a triathlon bike. That'll
Mm-hmm.
get me through. So,
As they say, it's N plus one. That's the
yep, N
equation,
plus
N
one.
plus one. So yeah, so we talked about your first did we talk about the actual race? Yeah, we did talk about the race.
Smithfield,
Yeah, okay.
we
Just
did, yeah.
just making sure. What was the feeling that you got coming across the finish line that had you saying, "Hey, I want more"? I know you said you wanted to get better, but what did you feel?
I honestly just felt elated, um, and a real sense of accomplishment. And I think that's why I always go back to that feeling when somebody says, "Oh, I'm just doing a sprint," is because, like, remember that first time that you crossed the finish line at a sprint? Like, you felt like you had accomplished something. The race is almost a formality, or the cherry on top of all of the training that you put in. And you just felt like you just did something huge. And that doesn't have to be an Ironman. That can be a sprint, super sprint, Olympic, whatever distance. The training that went into that is so much, and so much on top of what the average person does, that you've already put yourself in this tier of people that probably the top 5% maybe are doing anything like that. And so to finish that race, even if your finishing of that race is a DNF, you did something. And it just, that sense of accomplishment is so awesome. And I hope I never lose that. I hope that I don't ever get salty on the sport because that I always get a little bit of that every time I cross the finish line. I really enjoy going, oh man, that's you you get this feeling of you just finished something great. And then it's immediately followed by like, how do I make that better? That's the next part. But it's like that first part is such a great feeling.
That's the essence, I think, that I would love for people to just remember is remembering your first time. Like, and if you can take yourself back to that first memory of when you got into sport that made you fall in love with sport, I think that's also another key benefiting factor to add to knowing your why, your purpose, and your why is remembering that first feeling because that will remind you of, hey, I got in this because I enjoyed what this felt like. I like how it made me feel. I love what it did to me as a person. It made me either better, helped me with my health experience, like whatever it helped you with. It's like remembering your first because you never forget your first. And so I appreciate you for saying that and just making it, it's a ground, making it more ground, like letting it ground you a little bit. Yeah. Um, wow. You did Smithfield. You registered for these races. We've gone through the pandemic. Now you're fully ready to unload because you've gotten all this training pent up in you from the pandemic that you cannot use. And so you end up doing your first 70.3 and your first full distance in the same year, I presume, which was right after the pandemic. So let's walk through those first because I feel like those first warrant a bit of airtime on the Try Beginner's Luck podcast because you try Beginner's Luck. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. Uh well, I don't think the outcomes necessarily warrant talking about, but the the experience was great. So I had initially signed up. The plan was I was going to do Ironman North Carolina, Ironman 70.3 North Carolina in 2020, and then Maryland in 21. Well, North Carolina got rolled to 2021 based off of COVID. And I was like, well, I got to do a 70.3 before I do an Ironman. And so we were living in Wilmington at the time, and there's this race down there called the White Lake Half, and it seemed like a good course to get things done on. And I had a couple other teammates from the Cape Fear Triathlon Club at that point that were going to be doing that, or they were going to be doing the Olympic or the sprint the next day. And so I decided I was going to hop into that one and hit that one in May. And then I would do the full in September. And that one was just so much fun. And I finished that, and I remember that I could not stand. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do a full in September when I can't even stand after doing this 70.3 here in May. And so for the rest of the day, I laid in bed and I just tried to heal up and then figured out what I needed to focus on for the next thing. So I started pulling up my data and going, okay, the swim was fine. That'd be good enough. If we go to swim, we can still do this. And I know I can do that distance in swimming because I'm a confident swimmer. But the bike still needed some work, and the run definitely needed work because the run was the toughest part. So that was what I focused on. I also, at that point, hired a coach who was affiliated with Cape Fear Triathlon Club. His name is Trent Hayden, and he stayed my coach even when I moved up to DC. And he coached me through Ironman Maryland both times that I did it. So in 2021 and then again in 23. And in 2023 was where he and I decided that I had kind of grown to be doing something different with my training. And so we needed to take different directions. We still chat all the time about progress and things like that, but he's got other people he's got to focus on. And so that was where we split. But he helped me put the plan together and kind of put that plan together for me for Maryland in 21. And unfortunately, the biggest thing that I didn't we've talked a lot about the swimming and the biking and the running, and that should kind of clue you into the fact that I was really not neglecting, but hadn't put as much effort into the nutrition. And that's what came to bite me on the course is I got sick on the bike. And so then my 5 hour and 20-minute bike, I'll remember those splits forever because my 5 hour and 20-minute bike was shorter than my 5.5 hour marathon because I came off the bike and I had this huge knot in my stomach that I could not, felt like I wanted to throw up, and I just could not make it through. And for anybody listening, one, focus on your nutrition if you're going to go do your first full Ironman. And two, I know this doesn't sound like fun, but I immediately signed up for another Ironman right after doing this. So I still had a blast. And I remember my wife going, "You look so different finishing this race. Like I looked like death." And I was like, "Yeah, but it was so much fun. And I'm so proud of what I just did." And she actually got to put the medal on my neck because she was volunteering. And it was just a super special moment to be able to share with her. And it just, that sense of accomplishment again was there. Obviously, it was a first Ironman, but it was so fun. Even though I was sick, I was still like, you know what? I'm going to battle through. I'm going to make it. There was times on the race course, especially on the run, where I was like, you know what? I'm far enough ahead with the swim and the bike that I could sit here for an hour and rest and still finish, right? Like I knew I was going to finish, and that knowing I was going to finish kept me going. Um, but but yeah, it was not a great experience, but it was a great experience. I don't know any other way to describe that.
And I think you just have to do it to know, right? Once you do it to know, it's it's just you either have the gene that you love it or you don't. Um or you just have the hey, I'm one and done. But I appreciate that you signed up, and good for you that you are a part of a group of people who have the ability to finish or to make it with the bike time and have an hour of time to sit down and let your body get together and then get back up again. And I think that's what I appreciate about this sport is that no matter where you fall in the spectrum, there's space for you. And it doesn't matter how fast or how slow or how average or whatever it is that you want to quantify your experience or who you are or what bucket, put yourself in a bucket, there's space for you. And as long as you have the mindset to do it, you will always conquer whatever it is that you need to conquer. And even if it's, like you said earlier, a DNF, you will still be able to conquer it because you put in the work. And the work prior to getting to race day, honestly, that's where you're made. That's where the person is made is during the actual training. Race day is just what they say, the party. So I appreciate you sharing that story for sure. And to see you now, because after that, you've now gone to qualify for Boston. You've qualified for, I think, Kona or
I did
70.3
not. No,
or
I qualified for
70.3.
70.3 Worlds last year. If I Going back, if I had wanted to qualify for Kona, it would have been a not Maryland. I think would have been the better option for me to go try and qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was one of the first in the year. It was a whole year of people not going to Kona because they split the
Yeah.
men and the women. And it was just a lot of great competition out there. And it just wasn't my day. They shortened the swim, which is generally gives me a little bit of an advantage on the course. Um, you never know where the roll downs will hit. So come July, they may hit me back up and say you qualified, and I'll tell them no, thank you. I haven't been training for that. Uh, but yeah, I made two out of the three
Yeah.
last year.
And that's an amazing accomplishment still. What would you tell a beginner who's just starting out? Yes, we know nutrition is a big part, but when you're just starting, you don't really know a lot about nutrition. So, what would you tell a beginner who's just trying or just starting out? what they need to do to kind of prepare for their triathlon journey, or what advice you would give, any way you want to slice that.
I would say the number one thing is don't be timid. And what I mean by that is don't be intimidated by the sport, because there's a lot going on and you can be like, hey, I don't really know how to swim that well, or I don't know how to bike that well, or just the idea of showing up to a race where all these other people seem like they know what they're doing and how to rack their bikes and all the rest of that. When you get into the sport, the community is so welcoming that you'll find somebody that just wants to help or wants to. I remember my third race, I was like, I'm going to do this clip in where I'm going to clip my pedals in, or my bike shoes into my pedals first. And the dude sitting next to me goes, hey, I think you have those on backwards. And sure enough, I had my right shoe on the left pedal and the left shoe on the right pedal. And like, he was like, the only reason I know is because I've done that before. And like, it's just, and this was a dude that was going to go on to, I think he took second overall at the race. Like, he was just, that's the type of people that are in triathlon. You're always going to have some of those people that are just they want to go out there and they want to do their best, and that's all they care about, and they don't really care about welcoming others. But then you're going to have tons of people that are just, hey, is this your first triathlon? How many have you done? I remember talking to a guy last year at Maryland, and this was his first Ironman, and he was so disappointed that they cut the swim. He was like, well, if they cut the swim all the way, then I'm just going to go home because I didn't sign up to do a duathlon. And I kind of went, well, like, dude, you're about to finish your first Ironman. No matter what happens, just go finish. You're going to finish the race that they gave you. No one's ever going to take that away from you. And like, he was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, that's his first Ironman. He was going to be disappointed, and you just had somebody there to welcome him and go, nobody's going to care that you didn't finish that. Somebody might say something somewhere, but dude, you're going to be an Ironman, and take that with you. Like, because nobody's going to take that away from you. So
All about
I don't
perspective.
know. I
Yeah.
don't know if that helps there. What that was the type of answer you were looking for, but that's my piece of advice: is don't be intimidated, because it's such a great community.
It's not about what I'm looking for, it's about what you're giving. And I think that everyone has perspective. And to not be timid and let the sport intimidate you is solid advice. And I think that the last piece that you added was to take the day that is given to you, the race day that's given to you. And that's all you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
just have the best attitude. And I think it's attitude at the end of the day. Even if you encounter someone that doesn't have the best of attitudes, that's their problem. But you can manage yours, because yours is your responsibility. And so, uh, yeah.
You can't control other people. You can't control how they feel. You can only
Mm-mm.
control your attitude and your actions. And so I
Exactly.
just try and carry that into most of the things that I do.
That's it. Well, birthday twin, I appreciate you for coming onto the podcast, telling us about your story. Um, if people wanted to give to your organization that you are supporting, or to buy a hat, will you please let them know where they can kind of go and check you out?
Yeah, so we don't have anything formal set up, but I am public on Instagram. So you can follow me at mad dog underscore try underscore coach. And you can reach out to me personally over direct message, and you can say, hey, I'd love to buy a hat, or I'd love to support. We support a few organizations, not just support organization for Trisomy with what we do. But if you wanted to give directly, I'd highly recommend giving to support organization for Trisomy. With some other charities that really helped us that we partner with too is Ronald McDonald House, because they really help with not just trisomy but sick children, and giving families a place to stay when they need it, and they helped us out. Uh, and we also help with, or we have partnered with Simon's Promise, which is a organization that helps with children. Am I saying that word right? By the way, Simon's Promise, Simon's Law. Yeah, thank you, Simon's Law, which is my wife is here helping me now. Simon's Law
Oh,
is helping us, and Isaiah's Promise. I'm getting the two mixed up. Isaiah's Promise, who does a lot with infant loss and helps with that, and then Simon's Law, which is another key piece of having having the parents have more of a say in their children's care than what they're sometimes afforded. I don't want to get into. There's a lot that goes into that, and that could be a whole other podcast probably.
I
But
understand.
yeah, reach out to that, and I'd also recommend checking out Trisomy Kids on Instagram, because it's just some beautiful pictures of people's children that both my wife and I have actually set up to help spread those stories, and just stories of hope and stories of love and just stories of life that are given to some of these children that are not necessarily, they're considered incompatible with life in some states still. So it's just unfortunate, and so we've tried to help that along as well.
Well, thank you for sharing. And Mad Dog Tri Coach, are you a tri coach too?
I am, yeah. I'm a level one tri coach as well. So I use that mostly to help some of the clubs that I'm a part of. So I put together run programming for every person run club here in DC, and mostly just use the knowledge to help others where I can. I haven't taken on any paid clients yet. I think that's going to change here soon. I'm probably going to open up about 4 slots or so. I'm just, I am very, as you can tell, I'm very specific with how I like to race. I'm also very specific with the type of people that I want to help. And I'm going to be more of a looking for athletes that want to go to that next level and kind of take the mindset approach that I've taken to racing as well. Um, so I'm not just opening up to everybody. I don't want to take people's money. I just want to help people along, if that makes sense.
I can I yep. I who I guess who why didn't I know that you were a tri coach or what? There's so many things about so many layers to this onion that you can just keep peeling back. I learned something new every day. I learned something new before before we actually went live and was like, this explains it all. And was like, OM Google. And just to kind of fill you guys in on our conversation in a lighthearted way. I was like, living in Washington D.C., you don't know if what your friends say they do is what they really do, because you have so many people who do so many things, and they could be like, "Hey, you're going to set up this persona and be this person." I'm always fascinated by that. I watch too much TV. With that said, I appreciate you, Josh. We do have rapid fire, but before I just wanted to wrap up. These are some things that I um, heard about you. Like um, your strength and your courage is the epitome of grit, and it's your time, and you can take that to the bank.
Who told you those things?
So as we were talking, I kept writing down things I heard about you, and I wanted to encourage you with that. And so I hope that those words resonated with you, because I was like, what? I just want to say this, but this is what I can say on air. The other stuff I can't say on air. But with that, let's go to rapid fire, because I don't know if
Hold
you
on, I think I got some stuff in my eye here after hearing that.
stop
Making
it.
me tear up a little bit.
That onion was getting to you. The onion.
It was, yeah. And I don't know why onions? Why not parfait? Parfait's got layers, right? Shout out to Shrek fans.
Parfait. Ah, that's good. Okay, okay, okay. Um, all right, here we go.
Rapid fire.
I know, so I should have the rapid say. I need to just go ahead and do it. Okay, okay. Um, favorite place to cycle since you are into cycling? Where's your favorite place to cycle?
Haynes Point for now until they close it on me.
You think they're gonna close Haynes Point?
I've heard rumors.
Oh, stop it.
We can't get into this right
Yeah,
now.
we
We're in rapid
cannot.
fire.
I'm sorry. Oh, oh, okay, okay, okay. Wetsuit or no wetsuit since you're a swimmer?
Like my preference,
Hmm.
no wetsuit.
Okay.
But if it's
Um,
wetsuit legal, I'm wearing a wetsuit.
okay. Best recovery tool or method that you like?
Normatec boots.
Okay. Taper week, love it or hate it?
Hate it.
Run with music or without?
With.
You race with an aero helmet or regular helmet?
It depends. Race format. If I'm able to have an aero helmet, I do.
All right.
Sorry, that's not rapid fire.
Transition setup. Well, your transition setup, is it Goldilocks? Is it minimalist? Or is it kitchen sink? I bring everything.
Minimalist.
Race day nutrition, homemade or store bought?
Store bought.
Pre race pasta party or carb loading breakfast? Or both?
Carb loading breakfast. I mean, both technically. Not neither. Can I say neither?
Yeah.
Yeah, neither.
Okay.
I
All
was
right.
trying to figure out, like, I don't really do much different.
Okay. Okay. Um, any superstitions or pre-race rituals?
None that I can think of.
Okay. Best sign that you've seen on a race course that you can remember?
Okay, well, I mean, I've got to do the one that, and you can pull this up. It's my daughter's fat head. My wife went to FedEx and got a fat head made of my daughter, and it says at Journey for Faith. And so, like, there's a great photo, I'll send it to you actually, of me running down the Ironman chute last year holding that. And Marcus is cheering me on from Grit, and he shot off a confetti cannon. It's just the perfect, it's my favorite.
I
But it's
love
not like a funny one or anything like that. That's just my favorite one because it's personal to me.
that. That works for me. I love it. And finally, do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
Oh, I don't want to answer that one, but I pee on the bike.
You shamed?
Shave? Am I ashamed?
Yes. Are you ashamed? A little bit.
No, but yes.
It's all
No,
good.
but
It's all
yes.
good. It's all good. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. This has been great. And for those of you listening or viewing, we appreciate you. Like, subscribe, send to your friends, share this. We definitely want to keep Try Beginner's Luck growing. And we just thank you for rocking with us. And with that said, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win. I'm Mashonda Shines, and we are out. Peace. Bye. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win.